Very lovely weather. I actually like this type of weather because it's somewhere between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. And instead of just being dry and hot and sunny, it's cloudy with a nice breeze. And you can still wear a t-shirt, and my veins are still popping, so you can tell that it's still kind of warm. But I said in the last video, we're going to talk about love expression. And I've been sitting on this topic for about for the better part of 3 or 4 years, just thinking about love expression. Because I realized like I've heard a lot of girls talk about love language and love this, love that. It's giving, I don't know what the heck it is. Love language, but I thought it was like a language that people create, like Pig Latin, that people just create to communicate with each other, or couples create to communicate with each other. I don't know. But when I realized what love language was actually making a statement about, like, oh, it's giving, receiving, giving gifts, uh, words of affirmation. I don't know. It's just that type of stuff that people prefer. That's a very generalized thing, love language. And I heard a pastor talk about how language creates culture. And that's true because this love language business has created a culture of its own. It's a way of communicating your love to other people. But love expression is incredibly unique. The way I thought about this a long time ago was, let's say you, unfortunately, that's the best example we can come up with. I'm just kidding. Let's say you, let's just start with you. Let's say you have three different girlfriends in a span of 6 years. That's very generous, but let's say you've had, in a span of 6 years, you had three different girlfriends. You were not the same one with each one of those girlfriends. Your relationship differed, even though the love language stayed the same. Let's say maybe all three of the girls were quite literally the same in terms of love language. You were not the same in love expression because the way your personality was at the time and the way her personality was, the way the compatibility worked, and the way you got into a relationship with each other, what you guys liked each other for, the characters and personalities that you had created a unique blend of expression of love between the both of you that cannot be replicated no matter how hard people try. Sometimes when I see toxic people try and compete with someone's ex, it's like you're not going to remake that, no matter how hard you try, because it was completely and utterly unique. And why would you want to downgrade yourself to being someone else's ex? I'm just saying. Except in my case, it's more like, she's downgraded to someone better because I'm the best. So that's usually the best way to think about it. And in reality, though, love expression is something that takes a more serious nature, because when you look at the individual lives of people that we can actually compare about in the Bible, even, is the prophets. Each one of them had a very different message with God because they had a different relationship with God, and it's evident in the way that they write about God. There are parts and pieces in every book of the prophets: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. You can even read about Samuel, Elijah. All these people had a very distinctive way of talking about God, and that was based upon their individual encounters with God, the way He chose to appear to them, the way He made them Himself in an encounter with them. Even with Moses and Abraham and other biblical leaders that you see, even David, you see a very different aspect of God in each one, and that is because of what part of Him He is able to reveal to those specific people. Like Abraham, God shows a father heart to Abraham. And what do I mean by a father heart? Of course, David had kids, Noah had kids, but the father heart of God is specifically seen in Abraham. Why? Because he tells Abraham, you're going to be the father of nations. That's something like being God. It's close to understanding the duties of God, the responsibilities of God, the connection that God had to make with a whole lot of his sons and daughters. Abraham comes close to seeing the fruition of that, because he was both capable of incredible violence in the ways of defense, but he was also very capable of fatherhood, to lead an entire nation, to birth in an entire generation, and to make sure that people, sort of just came from him. people groups, ethnicities, nations. That takes a very specific type of love. A love that even when it says, you know what, it might require the death of your son, and he's like, okay. But that was because he was used to it. See, that's the thing that a lot of people fail to realize. They, I have heard the biggest argument against God is what he did with Abraham. But the truth is, they blame it on God when it's not God's fault. I'll explain it to you this way. The appeasement theology at the time that the cultures around Abraham followed, and Abraham even followed himself, was an appeasement theology. An appeasement theology says you have to do whatever a deity demands of you, even if it contradicts the guidelines and basis of the religion itself. You have to do it because the deity rules. It's more like a dictatorship. Yes, we know this is what the rule book says, but this is what I'm asking of you, even if it means you have to break through the rule book and you have to break the entire book, considered not even existent. How the CIA works, basically, in the movies. Break every rule, get away with it scot free, right? Now, when you actually think about Abraham and what he's asked to do, God is saying, if that is the way you want to speak to me, or that is the way you think you can speak to me, I'll start there, but we're not going to stay there. This is God's motto with all of us. We'll start there, but we're not going to stay there. We'll start right where you are as you are, but we are not going to stay there forever. Because there is so much more to life that I have for you. And the way I encounter God is very different to the way that my brother, my twin brother, in fact, even encounters God. We have similarities, absolutely, but the intricacies of our relationship with God creates a very unique love expression. There's a different way that God shows his love for me. Sometimes when I'm talking to him under a night sky, I'll see shooting stars. That's just the ways he's communicated to me. And it's always at the pinpoint time, like, God, are you even listening? Or have I just been ranting on too long? Shooting star. I'm still here. I care about you. That's the basic sign I get. And it's not even a sign, it's just saying, it's kind of like playing tag in a conversation. And even if we want to go biologically towards it, God's heart has a frequency. Our hearts have a very individually unique frequency. So your heart doesn't operate at the same frequency as my heart, biologically, right? And even in terms of quantum mechanics and physics, we have a different vibrational frequency altogether. When But the God frequency is so different because it can match up with any one of ours. We just have to get there. And traditional Chinese medicine talks about the meridians, and the heart meridian is the one that can be felt like 8 to 12 feet away from someone. Like it literally goes through. So, like right now, the camera is probably 3 feet away from me, or 2 or 3 feet away from me. But if you were there, you'd be able to feel, if you are that conscious and aware, you'd be able to feel my entire heart meridian realm. So, something to keep in mind when we're thinking about that is when we're bearing our heart to God, and like I said in the last video, it doesn't matter what God says to you. I care more about if you felt his presence first, because if you didn't feel his presence, God wasn't speaking to you. Sorry to say that. There's a reason why David said, I would rather spend all the days in your house, or dwelling in the temple of the Lord. He wanted his presence. He didn't care if God never spoke to him again. He wanted God's presence. That should be a big indicator for you. John the Beloved wanted Jesus' presence more than anything that Jesus could have ever said, because he understood the power of presence. And he was the first one too. When all the apostles later on, after they buffered and lagged for a while, when they saw what the presence was actually about, that's when their shadows started healing people. That's when they could just touch people and cover their eyes and say, you're healed. It's the power of presence. Like body lo- body language talks about this quite a little bit. Let's get this fixed up. Body language talks about the power of presence. Sometimes you can just walk in a room, but your presence and your reputation and your rapport go ahead of you. That's something I learned from a millionaire, by the way. She told me about how she's been in rooms with billionaires, but the only reason that she thought she was big enough to sit in that table was because of presence, the power of presence, the way she presented herself, the way she sat with cadence, the way she sat straight up, the way she spoke, the way she didn't stutter, she didn't bother doing anything else. She wasn't in insecure or whatever. That's the problem with a lot of people that I even see with my coworkers is they're broke up here. So they hate rich people because they're mad at rich people for having something up here that they don't have. And when I look at it, it's like, but if I offered to give you $10 million for free, you take it. Wouldn't that make you rich? Just saying. So, keeping in mind the example that I just gave, and you look at how body language has the power of presence, you walk into the room, and when you're in the room, people look at you, people pay attention to you because of the way you didn't even have to speak. Their eyes are locked in on you because you made your presence known, and you didn't just make your presence known, you made it look like the elephant in the room. Like there's something about that person. I spoke about this in one of my church playlists or God playlists. It's like in my YouTube channel where there was a specific playlist where I put something on the basis of presence and how when you walk into a room, this is not just body language, I guess this is spiritual body language of sorts. But when you walk into a room, you can actually walk into the room and it'll feel like an entire mob came in with you. You people will feel like the mafia just walked in, even though you were trying to be as discreet as possible. But that's because you were carrying the presence of not just God, but the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All three of them, and you. And when you four walk into a room, heads turn. Because it's like, I don't know what just happened, but that person walked into the room, and it feels like I should have paid attention. Because it didn't feel like just one man walked into the room. There's something I just can't exactly explain it, but even if people don't turn their heads, they can feel that presence behind their back. It's a very real thing. Don't confuse me on that one. I'm not lying about that one. The presence of God was felt when Moses went and spoke to the Pharaoh. The presence of God was felt when ask Moses. If you want, ask Moses. How did he feel the presence of God? Ask Elijah, ask Ezekiel, ask Jeremiah, ask Zechariah, ask Samuel, how did they feel the presence of God? They were the only people who would be able to call BS on any other prophet because they knew exactly what the presence of God felt like, which meant that their discernment was far superior. A lot of people in church complain about discernment and they say, oh, that doesn't sound right. How do you know what sounds right? You don't even know what God's presence feels like. A lot of preachers will pussyfoot around everybody else and say like, oh yeah, God's presence, blah, 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 don't care. Sorry. The reason why a lot of people don't want me to be speaking is because I'm very straightforward and I tell it like it is. I don't care about a lot of things, about the repercussions that you may have in the comments. A lot of your comments I don't even bother reading, especially the negative ones where people want to bicker and they think they're some sort of superior human being because they know the Bible. That's it. You know the Bible, not the person the Bible was written about. You know the Bible, but you don't know who the Bible revolves around. See what I did there? I didn't even say that it was the Word of God, I just called it the Bible. You think you know the Bible, and that's what you think makes you the best person on the planet. So did the Pharisees. What's different to you? What is if I put you up on a lineup against with Pharisees, what is the biggest difference that separates you and them? Please tell me. Enlighten me, please. I'd really like to know. They can quote scripture just like you. And in fact, you will be the one that opposes Jesus if he comes straight to your face, just like the Pharisees did. They were so caught up. I said this before. They were so caught up, blinded by scriptures, blinded by law, blinded by religion, for those of you that call yourself religious, that they lost sight of God when he was right in front of them. When he was right in front of them. God in the flesh was in front of them. And because they thought they were religious enough, they thought they followed the law enough, they thought they were superior to every other human being on the planet, they lost sight of God. Imagine that. You did everything right according to you, according to what you've been told for centuries, and you missed the mark when it comes to detecting the Son of God. Ouch. Can't imagine what that's like. And to be so stubborn and to be so blindsided just by something that's words. I know that I've spoken about how words have power, but you hold religiously enough to them at some point in time with the wrong perception, and you're only digging a grave for yourself. My friend spoke to me about this, and I think I mentioned it in one of the videos. And I was supposed to mention this in the last video as well. So let's think about this. If you look at the fact that, what did I say in the last video? Presence matters. I don't care what God said to you or what you think or felt like God said to you if you didn't even feel His presence in the first place. Presence precedes what God says. Presence always precedes. God's presence precedes before anything else. So now when you think about it, and I'm being very critical, when you think about it, and there's presence involved, what is the biggest difference between someone who does actually hear from God genuinely and feel their presence and someone who doesn't? Because they look the same. They will absolutely look the same. Here's what my friend told me a couple of years ago. Shout out, Craig. He said, let's take it, just because you know something doesn't make you the best at it. You could be playing violin for 20 years and still not know how to play the violin. Whereas someone who just picked up the violin 2 years ago but learned the right way to play the violin can be better than the person who played 20 years. The time is in a deficit. It's only the time that you invested learning in the violin, but you were busy learning the wrong thing, has only led to detriment for you because you didn't correct yourself. You learned the wrong thing. So, in the eyes of the people, you've been learning for 20 years, you're some fantastic person. But according to the eyes of the professionals, you are a loser because you spent 20 years learning the wrong thing. Whereas the guy who just picked up for 2 years, in the past 2 years, but he dedicated himself to learning the right thing, has a greater shot than you do. What does that say about Christianity? There's been people for a lot longer than 20 years following the wrong doctrine, following the wrong theology, believing in the wrong things about God. And there's a younger generation coming up that's fairly new to Christ. But you know what they're getting? The raw and genuine expression of His love. The love that's willing to sit next to a lady at the well because she can't draw water early in the morning like everybody else because she's a social outcast. That raw expression of love that captures young girls that are lost in hookup culture, drugs, concerts, parties, alcohol, bars, and it just turns them around completely and makes them women of love. Men can't do that. The power of God can. Don't underestimate that. Just before this video, I was reading Matthew chapter 15, 20 to 25, and that's exactly what Jesus says. Don't underestimate the power of God. But first comes presence. The presence of God leads to the power of God. The raw expression of love, think this far, that's willing to break a societal and religious rule that was created by Him to heal someone on a Sabbath. And the one way I can actually explain the expression of love, and you need to stick with me for this one, because it's kind of hard to grasp. It's kind of like when the disciples decide that they want to go to the temple but they have no money and this guy's begging them for money. And I think it was Paul that says, yeah, sorry about the money, can't really do anything about that, but sure, you're healed. Can't fix your money problems, but I can fix you. And why does that matter? See, this was in Acts, and the only reason this stuck out to me was because Paul and even God understood something at that point in time. This guy's begging for money, but if I fix him rather than just giving him money, if I lay hands on him and heal him, he'll be able to make as much money as he wants to because his body is as brand new now. Probably quite literally is. If he was crippled his entire life from birth, that's probably the way it is. God's love expression differs from person to person. Two people can ask for a car because they genuinely need it and they're in a distraught financial situation. But God gives one of them a car and God gives the other person the means to make money to buy it. That's two different ways of Him showing His love to people. And why is that? Because the people differ. One person will be able to see God's love directly, the other person will need to learn the lesson through the money made. So maybe God doesn't directly give him the means to make money, but he does hint at a person who approaches that person to get a job to finally get the money to buy the car right after he was done praying. And while this guy prayed to God, he instantly got cash, or he just got a car. It happens. I don't know why people can't believe this. If this has happened to you in your life, just let me know. I'm going to tell you a story. I meant to tell you this story a long time ago, but here it is. This was God's one very small story of God's love expression with me. I remember this was my first year in California in 2023. I had failed my driver license test twice, and I think that was a deliberate move of God allowing that to happen because, again, I drive in India, it's not so civilized. I'm very offensive, not defensive. And anyway, I failed twice. Now, the more I think about it, I'm like, God, I'm going to be walking to church every day. I was doing 5 or 7 miles every day because I would walk to church, then I'd have to walk around the church campus, and then I'd have to walk back home. And it was 2.5 ish miles from the church to my house and my house to the church. Now, the more I kept walking, the more I kept doing all that stuff, it started getting warmer. We're already in June now, so it was kind of like a little bit over 2 years ago. So I was walking to church and it was probably 30-ish degrees that day, or it was about to be 38 degrees. And I remember walking to church in the sun, and I'm not used to the heat. I'm used to this weather, cloudy and foggy and rainy all the time. I'm used to this. I can do whatever you want me to do in this type of weather. I'll work all day. I don't really care. Make it snow, I'll work even more. So, what happens at that point in time is I start talking to God and I'm like, genuinely, you know something? I don't like the heat, and you know that I don't like the heat. I just became like, this is where the vibrational frequencies of our hearts started to bond because they were at the same, it was a frequency match. The the vibrational frequency match linked up, and I was like, here's me being honest with you. I don't like the heat. You know I don't like the heat. And it's going to only get hotter up from here. It's probably going to get to 40 something degrees Celsius. So I don't know what your plan is. I don't have a license and I'm upset about that, but you already know that. But if you want me to continue walking to church, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, what happened at that point in time is there was this guy that I used to serve in the youth ministry with. He sees me walking and he turns the car around at the next red light. He comes and picks me up. He drops me to church, and on the way, he asks me, how many times do you go to church to serve there? And I say, I volunteer 4 days a week, and sometimes I show up there 5 to 6 times a week. But there are days where I'll show up twice in a day. So I'll go to church, go back home, go back to church, then go back home. And he's like, you walk each time? I was like, yeah. And he so admired that dedication. I think he was around 42 at that time. He so admired that dedication that I didn't know what was going on. And I only said hi, hello to him a few times. I was still getting to know people in the church. He comes up to the church next week, and I'm on ushering duty. So I've already made it there on time. I already made coffee, and then I've been told to be an usher. So there was a hallway like this. And over here, there was a table for a fundraiser, like a bakery fundraiser for kids to go on a mission trip. He walks in through the main door here with a cycle, and I open the door for him. And he puts the cycle here on the other adjacent wall. Now, I look at the cycle, I'm like, that's a pretty sweet thing, dude. I wish I could even have something like that. And I was like, I don't even have money to bid on that. If it's for the fundraiser, blah, blah, blah. He shows up and he's telling me about the cycle. He's like, you should check that cycle out. I was like, dude, I don't have money for that thing. I don't even have $10 for it. Then he's like, yeah, but you should check the cycle out. Anyway, he goes, he says hi to a few more people. Then he comes back. He's like, have you seen the cycle yet? I was like, bruh, I'm telling you, I don't have the money for that. Like, I literally do not have the money for this. I can't even put $5 on a bid for it right now. And I told him, I was like, I'll check it out though. If you really want me to, I'll check it out. The third time, he doesn't even bother asking me. He just grabs me by the arm and he like pulls me towards the cycle. And I'm standing in front of the cycle, clear as day. He's standing on my left, cycle's right in front of me. And he's explaining to me how this is a mountain bike with different suspension, brakes, blah, blah, blah. He he says, "So do you think you like it?" I was like, "That's all fine, but why is my name on the front bar of the cycle?" He's like, "Because God told me to give it to you. Last week when I picked you up and you asked me, or I asked you how many times you go to church, I looked at that dedication and I admired it and I asked God, what do I do for him? I know there's something you put in my heart for him. And God told me to give you that cycle because nobody really uses it, even though it's $1,000 cycle." That's my $1,000 cycle story. And that man now is what I'd imagine if my dad was Mexican, it would probably be him. He looks after me all the time. I'm trying to get him to start a YouTube channel, but all in all, he's become one of the closest people I have in America. And it was only just by something that was God's expression of love towards me. And I got blessed enough to spend time with fathers to understand exactly how they communicate. Fathers, see, everyone's so focused on moms and how moms operate and how moms are and how mothers care about other people's kids. You know, dads love to protect everybody. There's a reason why God is a father, not a mother. The father heart is the one that's willing to look at the greater good, that's willing to keep everyone in mind. Moms are very biased, dads aren't. Dads are very critical, they're not so biased. They're the ones that, like, that guys, there's two guys that aren't even related to me in any means. They're just friends, but they're like 40 and 50 years old. They still, they hang around me like I'm the son that they can get along with because I'm 20. By the time you get this, I'm 23 actually. What does that mean though? Let's take a deeper look at love expression. They see someone that they can be candid enough with, and what that does, spending time with me, helps them understand how to deal with their sons as their sons are growing up to be my age. And I'm not saying I'm a trial or a practice in some weird way. I'm just saying that they can learn that there is a point in time, like with my father personally, we went after the age of 16. I basically went from being my father's son to being my father's brother in some ways. We do business together, we do a lot of stuff together, we do construction work together, we are running multiple projects on at the same time. So I just basically, I didn't, like, I went from under his guidance to just being equals and or a mentored equal until the day he has to leave, because after that then I have to take his place. But that's how it is with dads. That's why Jesus is the one that comes and says, "You're supposed to be my equal," because that is exactly the way you will show up to God. You'll be on the left and the right. But when you take a deeper look at love expression, and if I'm supposed to get to the core of love expression, which I told you might take a little bit more than usual, love expression in a lot of ways is a unique, curated reality for you, a curated and designated identity for you. The ways in which you communicate with God, the ways in which God communicates with you, that's not necessarily the same thing. The way God talks to you and the way you talk to God can always be two different things. How silent can you be with God before you get uncomfortable with the silence? How long are you willing to wait in silence to hear from God? How willing are you to even let that silence be an answer for itself? Have you ever thought about it that way? Because sometimes God will speak in silence because he wants to just. A wolf, maybe? Maybe. It's probably somewhere there. Now, how willing are you? Because God speaks to Elijah in the silence. And what happens in that silence is that ever so faint whisper that he hears, besides after all the thunder, the lightning, the grumbling, everything, the faintest whisper in the silence leads him to a cave where he talks to God. The weirdest thing about all of that I would personally say is when you think about how God speaks to you in such a particular manner, we always expect God to speak so loudly with all these grand gestures. And sometimes God tried to speak to you 50 times that day, but you didn't catch it. It was a person on the subway that said you look good. and God was trying to reinvigorate some hope and positivity into your life. Maybe it was a person that you held a door open for, and God was trying to say, I hope you have a great day. Maybe, just maybe, you heard something on the news, and then you watched TV and you heard the same thing again. Maybe it was for you to shoot that shot with that girl. Maybe it was for you to finally get your act together. Because you're so scared of facing reality, you ignored all those signs when God was trying to reach out to you. And all you had to do was just pay attention and say, I'm listening, God. I'm listening. What do you need? All you had to do was just drop. Remember when I spoke about the spirit of religion, the very birth of religion, and how it came back to listening to God? You're telling me, quite literally, this is the best day for this video. Let's analyze this together. You're probably seeing the mountain here, right? Let's say this was where Moses had to go, on the top of Emigrant Peak. Let's just switch the landscape mentally for a minute. This is where the Israelite camps are, where we're shooting right now, where you're watching this with me right now. This is where the Israelite camp is. This fence line here is the same fence line that they had for no other creature except Moses to walk through. And it's documented in the Bible that a few mules or dogs or something tried to cross that line and they were vanished, disappeared, unalived on the spot. But Moses is up there and it's kind of like this. It's cloudy, it's stormy, it's thundering, it's dark. Thick darkness. That's what it's called. Koshek in Hebrew. It means to become dark. That's where God was. The people stood far off and Moses drew closer to the thick darkness because that's where God was. That's Exodus 24 or 22, I believe. So, as I'm painting this picture for you, just keep in mind what I'm trying to articulate to you. This is where the people are. They know that Moses is up there. They know that Moses is up there talking face to face with God, just like you and I are right now. And God is dictating to Moses that there's things that he needs to write down on a tablet. And meanwhile, that they're waiting for him to come down. They know that he's speaking to God. I'm trying to drill that point into your mind. They know he's speaking to God for them, on behalf of them, and he's going to come with a response. What do? Aaron, can you build us a golden calf to worship? Please. Can you believe that? You know that someone's talking to God on behalf of you. You know that God wants to send you a message, but all you have to do is give us something else to worship in the meantime. How many times have you even... This is what I'm trying to tell you. I just created a scenario for you. I took you back in time. I transported you back into time, into Exodus. Now look at what's happening. When you think about this and what I just said, how many times has God tried to reach out to you, but you've been looking for answers from other places? You prayed to God about getting a car, getting this, getting that, whatever. But when was the last time you were actually willing to listen to Him? You think God is just some request box, but when it's time for Him to respond, He has to respond with what you asked for and not His way of providing it for you. Didn't expect to hear that one, did you? The way He provides for you is unique. I just gave you a story of how He provided for me. It had my name written on it. He wants a way for you to get what you want in your life, especially if it serves you for the better. But you sitting there and thinking somehow magically of yourself that, oh, well, I deserve this and God deserves to give me this and blah, blah, blah. When did grace become a means of you to be entitled? You, it, it blows my mind that Christians will say it's because of God's grace and mercy, and then they act like the most entitled bastards ever. We deserve this. We are children of God, blah, blah, blah. You're, first of all, have you seen like the horror movies when they try to exorcise the spirit and we're like, in the name of Jesus, we demand blah, blah. Theatrics, I get it, but seriously, you're acting that entitled? I mean, the demon could probably look up your history in a minute. Probably knows your history better than you do. I'm just saying, you want to act all entitled, and Christians are notorious for, after accepting grace and mercy, they think they have a means to be entitled with everybody else. You deserve this. You don't deserve jack shit, honestly, because God can't trust you with it in the first place. So I'm assembling everything here in love expression. If God can't trust you with it, why would He even bother giving it to you? Why would he even want to provide it for you if he can't even trust you with it? If you are reckless with cars, why would God want to entrust you with another car? At the risk of you dying? What kind of father is that? What kind of father would give his son a stone if his son asked for bread? Same principle applies. Most of you just don't want to think about it in that context because you think you deserve what you ask God for. Grace doesn't mean you deserve or not deserve. That just is a free gift. And what blows my mind is people are like, we need to pay Jesus back for what he did on the cross. It was a free gift. How are you supposed to pay back someone you don't even know? It's like I told you a few weeks ago, I've been doing so many good things for the people here. I'm not boasting, I'm not stroking my ego. I'm trying to explain a point to you. So just shut up and listen. I've been doing things, I've been giving things away for free. I've been buying baked goods for people that have been going through bad days. I've been buying flowers for people. And what happens is they say, can we please pay you back in some way? Can we buy you a drink? I don't drink. Can we buy you a coffee out someday? No, you can't. I usually drink 3 cups of coffee in staff cafeteria. Can we buy you airheads? Nope. Lady at the office always has cans and jars of airheads just for me. Can we buy you waffles? Nope. I only eat them once a week, usually, if that. Otherwise, I don't really do that. Can we buy this for you? Can we do this for you? Can we just give you cash? No, my accounts are secure and offshore. Easiest way to get away with it. If you don't know me, how do you expect to pay me back for something good that I did for you? Likewise, if God did something for you and you don't even know how to pay him back. See, Christians will say, oh, we have to worship him. You know, my way of worship is after the camera is off, I just sit there and talk to him and listen to music. And we look at this view together. And I talk to him about everything that I'm planning to do, where my life is going, if him and I have actually been seeing genuine development and growth in my life, in who I'm becoming and who he wants me to be. That's my form of worship, not dancing around and speaking in tongues and all that. That's fine. If it works for you, that's fine. But remember that we were all designed to worship differently. I can stare at a night sky when everybody else thinks it's too dark to go outside. And I can see the beauty that God has there, and I'll worship him for all the stars that he made in the sky. I'll go out when it's dark like this and cloudy and thundering in the middle of the night, and there's lightning going on, and I'll ask him for the best light show ever, because I'll be like, that's gorgeous. Not a lot of people want to see this, but it's gorgeous. And I love the rain, and I'll smile in the rain. That's my way of worship to God. Riding a motorcycle, I worship God. Working out, doing push-ups, it's all ways that I worship God. And some of you might be very different. Playing the guitar, singing a song, praying in tongues, I don't know. But if you generalize the way worship is supposed to be for everybody, you lose that aspect of communication with God. And why am I saying it? Pastors can disagree with me on this, I don't really care. But you were so uniquely created that you weren't created to worship just like everybody else. And I say that with complete confidence because I know it as a fact. Fight me. I know it as a fact that you were designed with such a heavy intention of who God is and to bear his image in this specific manner of worship that you were designed for. Like me, I love doing things for people. I love being generous towards people. I love being kind towards people. And I never get an ego stroke out of it. But that is my way of worshiping God, especially in giving people things, because that's a part of him that he's instilled in me. That's a part of his image that I was created in. Why wouldn't I do more of that? That's my worship to him. That's me being closer to my intended identity that he had for me to begin with. And Satan tried to take me as far away as possible to make sure that I was like some sort of person that would be stingy, that would pinch pennies and do all of this stuff. But surely God put me in groups and circles of people that even though they weren't Christian, they were the same people that I was supposed to be. Never ever looking at what my right hand does after what my left hand just received. That's kind of how love expression works. It's weird that people don't think about love expression. They think about love language because they only care about the receiving end of it. What can be done for me? Love language is narcissistic. It's about what I can do for you, what you can do for me. It all me, like mental health. Love expression is how can I show you the best? How can we create a unique experience and encounter of love between the two of us? And the reason I use God is because God is not only the easiest, but the all at the same time also the most complicated way to show it. It's kind of interesting if you think about it. It's it's mind bending. It's easy to have a love expression with God, but it also gets complicated because you start to realize more of who you are. You start to realize more of who God is. And sometimes that can be intimidating. I won't lie. It can be intimidating because you're like, how did I not know about this my entire life, like up until this point? I've wasted 30 years of my life and I didn't even realize that this is what exactly I was created for. I wasted 40 years of my life just to come to this conclusion about myself. And I wasted 10 years of that doing drugs and gambling. It hurts. That's the type of intimidation it is. It's like I can't believe I wasted that much time. But that is where people fall into a negative spiral. But the love expression spiral is upwards. So what it will say is like, yes, I know you feel like you regret that time, but all I was doing at that point in time was creating you for this. I weaved around each and every mistake that you made. I heard a pastor talk about this. The the tapestry maker or the master weaver. And he's one of the best all over the world. I think this is like a folklore story. And he's the best in the world. And it's like backlogged if you want to get a carpet weaved from him or a quilt weaved from him. And basically what happens is there's a day where his great granddaughter has a birthday and it's her third birthday and she says, Grandpa, I want to make something with you, or great grandpa, I want to make something with you. And he says, sure. And they work on it, they work on it, they work on it. It's been a while. And as soon as it's done, everybody loves it. Everybody's complimenting it. And they say, she might actually have the gift. And is she the one that's going to take over your business? Because this work is amazing. And he said, what do you, and they asked him, he's like, what do you think? He said, she made every mistake that was possible. But I could calculate exactly which mistake she was about to make so that I could weave around them. And that's exactly what God does. And by the end of it, you end up with this beautiful quilt that is you, or your life rather. He weaved around every mistake you made, every time you broke up the wrong way, every time you hurt somebody, every time you felt rejected, every time you acted out of anything that wasn't your identity, whether it be rejection, whether it be abandonment, whether it be lies, whether it be betrayal, whether it be anything. He weaved around all of those things just to show you how much he loves you. Because you think you fell so far down, but God was like, you have not seen anything yet. The further down you think you've been going, the further along I've been bringing you this entire time. Why? This is the cool part. Remember what I said about love in the first video? It's like a seed. You can't have fruits without the tree. And the tree starts with a seed of love. And the more expressive the love gets, the more the roots go deeper down. And it grows to be something very unique in a very marvelous way, if you think about it. Because the deeper you go and the deeper you think you've been going this whole time in the dark, it increases your capacity to stand tall in love and even just bear fruit, to be honest. Let's say, let's say that peak there was a tree. How deep do you think how deep do you think its roots would have gone? And how long it would have focused to have those roots? I'd I'd probably that's a 10,000 foot elevation peak. I'm willing to bet that 10 miles out it would still have roots extending if it was actually a tree that big. Because we're at 5,000 right now, that's another 5,000 feet of elevation. If that was a tree that stood 5,000 feet tall, I'm willing to bet that it had roots that went miles and miles deep and wide. just to make sure it stood up just like this. Think about that. So the more you think you're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and this is when love starts to grow. It's like you have not seen anything yet because I'm trying to show you how far your love is about to sprout. It's going to be a sapling soon, then it's going to continue growing year after year. Then you're going to have branches and twigs. Then you're going to have leaves that never wither because they're going to be used for the healing of the nations. And you will bear fruit in every season. You become that tree of life because there's so much love in you. And love is what brings life. Do you see how all of this comes full circle? Even though I've already prayed to the Holy Spirit about this before, you may want to watch this if you can't still wrap your head around it. I'm trying to articulate as best as I can, and especially as best as I understand my understanding of love expression, because it's God wants to cater an experience with Him and you, and He wants it to be incredibly unique. He doesn't want to waste time treating you like every other person on the planet. He wants to treat you very differently, as a royal priesthood, as his rightful son. So when I say these things, it's the way I talk about it is you need to be interlaced and intertwined with him. But it's also like a very designated and very precise design that he has for you, which will never be replicated. And that identity is what defines the relationship. It's like in my books, if you really want to understand love expression, please read my fourth book, my fourth Christian devotional book, and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. The fourth book is basically about love and truth, and love cannot exist without truth. Truth cannot exist without love. And when I start picking those two topics together and just talking about love and truth in different forms, if you get through that last devotional, Formidable Faith, the Throne Room of the Spirit, I guarantee you, you will never think of love the same way. God and I guarantee, the Holy Spirit and I guarantee you that you are not going to think of love the same way. All you have to do is just put the work in the devotional, fill out every entry honestly, and be as honest depending on the topic that I've spoken about, and fill in what you made out of it. Do the work, reflect, analyze, and by the time that you're done with that book, you'll be a completely changed person when it comes to love. And if you really want to know about different types of love expression, my poetry books are out there too. I'm not exactly self promoting, I'm just telling you exactly what I'm talking about. I have 9 poetry books in a series, and each of them uncovers a different aspect of love. The first 3 are the deeper and darker parts of love, where you're growing deeper and in the darker realm, and you think it's like, am I ever going to get out? And blah, blah. Is this good for me? Is this bad for me? I want to get out. I want to get out. And this is when you're in the dark where your roots are growing. Then the second part is when you start sprouting up ahead. Those are the next 3 books. Books number 4, 5, and 6. Books number 7, 8, and 9 is when you are that tree of life. And you see the fruition after the dark. You're out there, you're this magnificent tree, standing tall and strong, providing for the world around you. And your love is what brings healing. So, either the poetry or the Christian devotional, it's really up to you. I know I kind of made that sound very dramatic. Someone should put background music in that. Someone should clip it, put background music in it, and make it sound very epic and I don't know. I hope I wasn't too dry for you guys today because I don't think it's a dehydration problem. I just think I I genuinely am confused about how to talk about love expression this time because love expression is a very broad topic and I wanted to keep it consistent with the love topics that I've been giving you. And I hope this one's been helpful for you guys because no matter how much we talk about love, no matter how much we try and encounter love, sometimes it just so happens that in essence, love is always just that much further away. Because you think every time you think you know love, you can't because God is love. So every time you think you know love, it's almost as if you think you know God. And that's when there is more of Him to be revealed to you. That is the real mystery of love. And sometimes it can be incredibly just non romantic. I don't know why people have started to confuse love so much over the past few generations with romanticism. Love exceeds the bounds of romanticism. True love does, at least. I learned true love from two dogs that are my heart, basically. They were my sons. I learned more about true love from them than I would from any other girl ever on the planet. And don't think I've forgotten. I hope you're still analyzing. This is the first week of August now. I hope you spend the entire month of July analyzing how you being kind and positive and loving to people is a good force for not just your life but the lives of those around you. I hope you've been analyzing, and I hope you've been critical about it. Like, what was I like before this? What was I like after this? And for the month of August, please do something for me. I'll give you a fun task for the month of August. And if you know, you know. Treat every dog you see the best you can. Doesn't matter if it's a street dog, doesn't matter if it's lame, doesn't matter if it's a cute one or an ugly one. Like, what are those? Pugs? Yeah. Treat all of them nice. Give them belly rubs, buy them treats. Buy other dogs treats, not just your own. People who have dogs, buy them treats. I want to see that happen for you. So, I know this is a fun one, but this is for the entire month of August, so I'll keep checking on this one. And don't think I won't because I know what I'm doing with this one. So I hope you guys can make the most of it and just stay happy. Continue being kind and positive. Now I give it to you, people that are easier to work with. And then in September, you'll be able to analyze exactly what the difference is between spreading kindness and positivity and joy to people and then to animals, even horses and cattle or whatever you're into, whatever animal you prefer. So enjoy, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. I wish you the best. Think about your ways of love expression. How have you treated different people in your life depending on how close they are to you? Think about love expression differently and analyze it. I just navigated it for you a little bit of the way. Do look carefully and analyze in all your relationships how you have been reaching out to people. The friends that you had, the old friends that you have, the school friends that you have, the classmates that you had. How was your love expression with them? Because you do love them. Your ex girlfriends, look through those. That's usually the easiest one to go through. But analyze how you are expressing your love to them. Each one differently. Each brotherly relationship you've had, how have you loved them? Each one differently. Your siblings, how do you love them? Each one differently. It's interesting to see. I won't lie to you. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. I'm not going to irritate you anymore. I'll get to irritating you next week again because I enjoy that. I enjoy annoying people by correcting them and by being straightforward with them. Anyway, see you guys.